Okay, welcome to Menopause at Work Month. I'm chatting with Natasha Watkinson. Natasha, do you want to just tell us what you do, and then we will get onto the topic?
Yeah, so I'm a registered nutritionist, and I work mainly with women in the perimenopause and the menopause to help them manage their symptoms, have a smooth transition, and help them lose weight.
Awesome. So, menopause at work, it's a big one, isn't it? Because, we're all trying to work while battling all of this.
Yeah, it is, and certainly for a lot of the women that I speak to, they really struggle with some symptoms at work. I think traditionally people kind of think, oh well, the hot flushes are a big issue at work, and they can be for some women. They can be stressful and make you feel uncomfortable if that's happening at work. I think more of the women that I speak to struggle with maybe some more of the brain foggy type issues at work, or the increased anxiety at work.
And I think, like you say, hot flushes are they're horrible, but they're quite easy to manage. We know you wear layers and you can have a fan, and actually, it sounds like I'm belittling it. I'm not at all, but they're relatively easy to manage. But the anxiety, the imposter syndrome, the brain fog are so much harder to deal with, aren't they?
Yeah, and I think it happens, at a time in our lives where a lot of women, they've been doing probably been doing their jobs for quite a long time. They might be managing teams, they might be at a senior level, they might be feeling, like they're really kind of in their groove with their job. And then it kind of comes out of nowhere, and if your teacher is standing in front of a class and you can't find the words, or if you're in some important board meeting and you've forgotten what you're talking about, then it really undermines your confidence and how you're feeling. And then I think that sort of increased anxiety can really make women feel sort of imposter syndrome kind of coming back, and feeling like you need to prove yourself. If you haven't slept as well, who's going to feel great the next day at work if they haven't slept?
And I mean, the stats about women leaving work at this age are really scary, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, I think they are. There's a lot of we don't want to sort of scare people. This doesn't happen to everybody. There's about 25% of women going through the menopause who say that their symptoms are severely affecting them at work. But unfortunately, there are about 10% of women going through the menopause who do end up leaving jobs because of their menopausal symptoms. So, it can be extremely severe for some women. Not everybody, thankfully.
Yeah, quite. So, kind of sticking within your area of expertise, what nutritionally can we do to kind of support ourselves so that we aren't as badly affected in the workplace?
So, I mean, one of the things that I find with the women that I'm working with is that from a nutritional perspective, we can often get into this cycle of, if we're tired, not sleeping well, of sort of relying on coffee and sugar, and sort of maybe having sort of quite a sort of carby type breakfast because we think that's going to get us going in the morning, maybe some toast and marmalade, or some Weetabix. Unfortunately, it sort of sets us off on this kind of cycle of having a kind of a bit of rush of energy from that carby kind of breakfast, but then a crash sort of mid-morning, and having more cravings. So maybe reaching for a cereal bar and a cup of tea or a cup of coffee to get us going. And those sort of blood sugar kind of spikes and crashes really kind of contribute to those sort of feelings of brain fog. And so I've definitely found with, like one client that I've been working with recently who came to me for weight loss, but was struggling a lot with sort of brain fog at work. When she started changing up her breakfast and having a much more kind of protein rich breakfast, so, a simple thing like swapping her breakfast cereal for a high protein granola that's got lots more kind of nuts and seeds and things like that in it, and maybe having it with a little bit of yogurt. she felt that she had much more energy across the morning. She wasn't reaching for that kind of coffee and sugar. And over time, those kind of feelings of sort of brain fog were starting to kind of dissipate as well, because she didn't feel like she was being dominated by those cravings, and she could think a little bit more clearly.
Yeah, and it's amazing how powerful food is in managing our symptoms. You know, when you think about, someone showed me a graph the other day of, you know, the sort of insulin spikes and troughs that you get if you keep eating the sugary things.
Yeah.
And when you actually look at a graph like that, you sort of think, oh yeah, that's going to affect me. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, let's see how I can kind of keep it more balanced. And you know, we all know when we look at kids who aren't concentrating, we're like, oh, they've had too much sugar. But somehow we don't translate that to ourselves, do we?
Yeah, and I think, you know, I think the thing is that, you know, a lot of us probably don't think we're eating a lot of sugar, because it's in, you know, because it's bound up in the other foods that we're eating. But when you have something like toast, or, you know, even sort of like, you know, bran flakes and things like that, which, you know, we all kind of think of as being healthy, when our body digests them down into glucose. So it's not necessarily sugar that's rotting your teeth, it's the way it acts within your body. It's then turned into sugar. You know, and there's nothing wrong with, you know, bran flakes, but it's about having it with some kind of, you know, no, not necessarily having it with skimmed milk, because there's no protein in there at all. But, you know, if you like kind of bran flakes, maybe having, you know, a little bit of yogurt on the side, or having some seeds and other kind of things kind of mixed into it, make it more balanced. Yeah, so that you're, you know, making sure that you're getting some protein in there.
Yeah, and it is those little things that you can add. So, and I think that's really important to get the point across, that it isn't about completely changing how you eat. It's just adding little things to help your body balance it, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, thinking about lunchtime, you know, lots of us rely on kind of sandwiches, especially, you know, if we're going into work and want something that's easy to take. You know, but often the sandwich is sort of, you know, 2 thick layers of bread and a very thin kind of layer of, you know, maybe cheese or ham or tuna, you know, whatever you kind of fancy. It's thinking about ways that you could change that up. So maybe having a wrap, so that you've got slightly less of the kind of carbohydrate, of the kind of heavy bread, with a bit more filling, you know, and adding in some salad and things like that to make it much more of a kind of balanced kind of lunch. So you're not necessarily taking things away, you're adding to it.
Absolutely. And the thing is, you know, I know I sort of come at this from a standpoint of really disliking sort of restriction, and I think there's such a lot to be said for just switching things up so that you're adding things, and then your body thanks you for it, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, definitely. You know, I mean, we all know when we've not been kind to our bodies, you know, if we've had a big celebratory weekend, or you know, we've got some quite big celebrations coming up with the Jubilee in a couple of weeks, you know, and we all know if we spend a weekend eating beige food at a party and maybe drinking a little bit too much, that our body's not going to thank us for that in a few days' time. You know, and life is about balance, and, you know, we do need to treat ourselves, you know, and but yeah, if we can be nourishing ourselves a little bit better, maybe 80% of the time, and treating ourselves 20% of the time, then our bodies might thank us for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And the beauty of that is that it has then the immediate knock-on effect, well, not immediate, but it has the knock-on effect of making the brain fog less, making us a bit sharper again, helping us to sleep a bit better, and just so many other positive effects, doesn't it?
Yeah, because yeah, if your body's feeling stronger, you can cope a little bit better. You know, there are some good things around sleep as well. It's I think especially for women, it might not be sort of every night that you're struggling to sleep. A lot of my clients say that they really struggle to sleep if they're still having periods in the week running up to up to their periods. So you know, sort of making sure that you've got sort of sleep hygiene, thinking about, you know, if you're on your kind of smartphone night, you know, kind of shining it too close to your face. You know, it's a good idea to maybe sort of try and put it down an hour before bedtime. And certainly not, if you're waking up in the night, picking it up again, because that blue light in the night is so disruptive to your sleep patterns. So finding other things to maybe distract you or calm you if you are waking up during the night and you're just getting so frustrated lying in bed, you know, maybe going in another room and reading. Or one of my clients at the moment has started journaling again, because she's going through quite a few stressful events. She's started a new job 6 months ago, and she's now in the process of moving house, which, you know, those are kind of two of the biggest stressful things that you can do in your life. And so she started journaling again just before bedtime, and just writing down sort of things that are either worrying her or things that she thinks she needs to do tomorrow. So it's getting it out of her head, and calming her brain down before bedtime. They kind of help her with this kind of sleep issues.
Yeah, and all of those things combined, you know, adding things into what you're eating that support your body, plus then doing the things to sleep better, can all have such a huge positive impact on how you perform at work the next day, can't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think, you know, I mean, the program that was on recently that Davina did about, you know, about kind of about how women are affected during the menopause at work was brilliant for raising awareness, because, you know, I think there is an onus on employers to be doing a little bit more. Certainly research that I read from the British Menopause Society recently said that there's actually only about 10 or 15% of employers that do anything about menopause for women at work.
Yeah.
You know, and there's 3.5 million women out there in the workplace going through the menopause, you know, half of their workforce.
Yeah.
You know, there are some enlightened employers. Went into a sort of private kind of nursing and care home recently in Sheffield, where I live, to talk to their menopause support group. And they'd set that up recently because it's a nursing profession. It's mostly women that work there, and they've got a lot of women going through the menopause. So they recognised that they needed to support them better. They were doing training, not just for women, but also for the line managers. You know, some of them were men. And that was quite an interesting session, talking to the men about what happens to women during the menopause. Yeah, it would be great if there was some more enlightened employers out there that, you know, were having these conversations. Because I think sometimes some of the anxiety comes from women feeling like they can't talk about it at work, you know, and feeling a bit of shame or stigma, you know, not wanting to speak to a male boss about it. So I think there's definitely you know, a role for employers to make having those conversations easier, you know, and maybe having, you know, nominated people, you know, who are trained in the menopause, you know, that you could go to and have that kind of conversation if you are struggling. So, you know, because often talking about it and, you know, just getting it out there, you know, that can make a huge difference just even in itself.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'm in agreement with you 100% there. But no, that's brilliant. Thank you so much for some really simple tips and a good sort of oversight. So thank you very much, Natasha.
Thanks, Emily. See you again.